Alright, let's dive into something that's been buzzing in the sports world lately, and no, it's not just about the scores or the stats. It's about athletes speaking out, or not speaking out, and the crazy backlash that follows. Here's the deal, Aaron Rodgers, Sophie Cunningham, and Caitlin Clark are all in the spotlight, but for very different reasons. And personally, I think this whole situation is a perfect example of how messy and complicated public discourse has become. First up, Aaron Rodgers. The guy went after Dr. Fauci, and let's just say it didn't go unnoticed. What makes this really interesting is how quickly athletes' comments get amplified in today's world. Rodgers isn't just a quarterback, he's a public figure with a platform. But here's the thing, when he speaks out, it's not just about his opinion. It's about the ripple effect. Fans, critics, and everyone in between dissect every word. In my opinion, this is where things get tricky. Athletes are human, right? They have thoughts, beliefs, and biases. But the moment they share them, they're either hailed as heroes or crucified as villains. There's no middle ground. Now, let's talk about Sophie Cunningham. She made it clear she's against transgender athletes competing in women's sports, and the backlash was immediate. What many people don't realize is that this isn't just a sports issue, it's a societal one. Cunningham framed her stance as protecting young girls, but here's where it gets complicated. When you take a step back and think about it, her comments tap into a much larger debate about inclusion, fairness, and identity. Personally, I think her intentions might have been genuine, but the way she framed it opened her up to criticism. It's a fine line between advocating for a cause and alienating others. And then there's Caitlin Clark. She was asked to comment on Cunningham's stance, and her response? Essentially a no comment. But here's the kicker, even her silence spoke volumes. What this really suggests is that athletes are damned if they do and damned if they don't. Speak out, and you're labeled as divisive. Stay silent, and you're accused of being indifferent or cowardly. Clark's response was strategic, in my opinion. She shifted the focus back to basketball, which is her job, after all. But in today's hyperconnected world, even silence is interpreted as a statement. If you take a step back and think about it, this whole situation highlights a bigger trend, the pressure on athletes to be more than just athletes. We want them to be role models, activists, and commentators on every issue under the sun. But here's the thing, not everyone wants that role. Some athletes just want to play the game they love without getting dragged into political or social debates. And honestly, that's okay. What this really suggests is that we, as a society, need to stop expecting athletes to fill roles they never signed up for. A detail I find fascinating is how quickly these conversations escalate. One comment, one tweet, one no comment, and suddenly, it's everywhere. Social media has turned every word into a potential landmine. Athletes are held to impossible standards, and the hypocrisy is staggering. We cheer when they speak out on issues we agree with, but the moment they say something we don't like, it's stick to sports. It's a double standard that's both comical and exhausting. This raises a deeper question: why do we feel entitled to athletes' opinions in the first place? Is it because we admire them? Because we think they owe us something? Personally, I think it's a mix of both. But here's the reality: athletes are individuals with their own beliefs, and they should have the freedom to share them or not. Just like the rest of us. So, where does this leave us? In my opinion, we need to recalibrate our expectations. Let athletes be athletes. If they want to speak out, great. If they don't, that's their right too. The constant pressure to take a stand on every issue is unfair and, frankly, unsustainable. What this really suggests is that we're putting too much on their shoulders and not enough on our own. Closing thought: maybe, just maybe, we should focus less on what athletes say, or don't say, and more on the conversations we're having as a society. Because at the end of the day, these debates aren't about Aaron Rodgers, Sophie Cunningham, or Caitlin Clark. They're about us, and how we choose to engage with the world. So, next time you see an athlete's comment, or lack thereof, take a breath, think critically, and remember, they're just one voice in a much larger conversation. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below.